One. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the writer's class. And since I have a tickle in my throat, I'm going to run through the introduction. I'm trying to do it before I have a coughing fit. If you've been with us for the last couple of weeks, if you've been watching me do this, it's been, excuse me, let me get my water every 15 seconds. Yeah, it's like that. And I decided to sit next to a pretty plant today. Oh, no. Not a good day for my throat. Anyway, moving on, I'm Winona and we wrote books. When I say we, I mean me and the missing Jade. This and I thought divorce was bad, and I thought being grown up was easy. If only I were me, a memoir in verse, Widows Web, Widows Debt, and Foreign Coffee. You're counting? That's 6. We have 11 more to make 17. And you can find out everything about those books on www.n.ladies.com. I'm not even going to go ahead and do the car dealership one because tickle in my throat. So you're not here to hear about me. You're here to hear about our wonderful guests. Wonderful guests, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Mekdela, and I'm the author of Plus Size, a memoir of pop culture, fat phobia, and social change. And 3 facts about me. I love the beach. I love reading, especially memoirs. I really like memoirs. And a funny fact about me, I love talking to dogs in a baby voice. I just can't talk to them any other way. They're so cute.
They are so adorable. Them and kittens. I mean, oh, if you talk to a kitten in the baby voice, it's like, what are you doing? Grow up. So I have to ask, what made you want to write this book in particular? Because I mean, it's been a problem of plus size and not being represented or taken seriously has been a problem for eons. But like, what made you go, okay, this is my turn, I'm gonna put my voice out here?
Yeah, it's a funny story. So after Trump, or actually before Trump was elected, I was already a community organizer. I was working with Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities in Los Angeles, and then Trump was elected, and everything, like, it was just chaos. Everyone was running around like a chicken with their head cut off, and in order just to like maintain some of my sanity, I started writing a blog, and just like kind of like, and that's what I do. I just like write, and it helps me like get my feelings out, and my clears my mind and gets my thoughts straight. And it was just like writing whatever, and everything just came out. And then later I looked back at it and I was like, hey, some of this like kind of tells a chronological story. I could order some of these posts and edit them into a book, and that's how it was born.
So you just organized the blog, but like before you organized the blog and like after the Trump election, what made you go, okay, so Black and brown, this is important, but then like full size, this is important, body structure is as important as this? Because I don't think most people go, oh my goodness, Black and brown important and plus size same level.
Yeah, I mean, it just came out of me on the blog, and then later I looked back and I saw that theme. It was completely unintentional. I just saw that theme in my writings, and I was like, okay, this is like the stuff for a book that could be had here. But I think that intersectionality. There's a book I recommend if you haven't heard of it. By Sabrina Strings. She's a professor from the University of California at Irvine, I believe. And she wrote a book called, she's a Black woman, and she wrote a book called Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origins of Fat Phobia. So there's a belief at this point that fat phobia actually originated from anti-Blackness. So it's always been connected to race. And, actually the aversion to fat came out of like the colonization of Africa, and enslavement and all of these things. And so for me, talking about like fat phobia and plus size is always going to be connected to issues of race, and gender. But it's interesting when you really think about it, all social issues are connected, in some way.
I mean, because we all live in society and we are a part of it, and we are all humankind. We do need those social issues taken care of. What do you hope a reader can get from reading your book? What do you hope they take away?
Yeah. I just hope that they take away, critical thinking skills, media literacy, the ability to read a piece of media or to read a book or see a piece of media and not immediately be like brainwashed or swayed by it, but to be able to think like, okay, think critically, like knowing this history that I know now from this book and maybe other things like it. It's like, what is the motivation behind this? Who created this media? What is their motivation? What do they want from the audience? And what does that mean about the message and for me in our society, instead of just being, automatically brainwashed? Because I think a lot of us really do, especially when we don't have media literacy, we're really susceptible to being swayed by media and we don't even know it, right? So we're subliminally being, our ideas and thoughts are being shaped. So I really hope one of the things that readers get out of this book is critical thinking skills and media literacy.
I want to ask this question so bad, but I don't think this is a appropriate question to ask. So, but I'm asking because Jade's not here to stop me. If we applied the rules of media literacy to your book, what do you think? What do you think we'll get? It's kind of
Interesting.
like the repeat of the first question I just asked you, but I just like to add media literacy in there because you said it, and I was like, "Oh, I love it."
Interesting. Yeah, I tried to write the book open-ended. I included the facts, I included my opinion, but you'll notice that I never really drew a conclusion. I left it open-ended. I argued for both sides of a lot of points, and I let it up to the reader to make their own decision. I left it up to the reader. So, um, and you can notice that a little bit if you read it. Unless it was something that's like is definitely a fact and needs to be understood, like, this is racism and you can't argue against that.
I love that. I absolutely love it. And that's one of the reasons that, yes, I'm going to be the narcissist here. It's one of the reasons we wrote our book in poetry because we wanted to face hard things, but we did not want people to come like, oh, this is what they think. No, this is how you interpret the information. And I love that you were able to do that with a nonfiction piece. I have to ask, since you said this at the beginning, you said you read memoirs. How do you find new memoirs to read?
There's so many. It's like a rabbit hole. Actually, I quote a lot of them in my book as well. There's so many that are like in a similar vein. Like there's the memoirs that touch on like fat phobia, and a lot of them have to do with like pop culture as well. And then people come out with them, and they're like all in like the same genre. So when it, like, for instance, like Hunger by Roxane Gay, super fan. Also Shrill by Lindy West, that one's really good. And then in 2020, I believe, Aubrey Gordon um, published What We Don't Talk About When We Talk About Fat. There's always memoirs coming out. But like I do have like a bias towards celebrity memoirs, and that's probably bad. And I need to look into more non-celebrity memoirs. But the one I'm reading right now is Cal Penn, You Can't Be Serious. And it's really good. And it actually has themes that he really analyzes, like the film industry and like um, like he does touch on media literacy, and it kind of echoes what I say in mine as well. So I really recommend that.
Um, I would love your opinion on this. Okay, if you've noticed, we do not do segues on this show, so we're just gonna jump around in the conversation. Okay, and I'm gonna ask this fast because hey, there's another coughing fit coming up. Oh, lovely plant. Wish I could turn the camera so you could see the plant. But I recently gained quite a bit of weight over COVID, and I was like, oh my god, I gotta lose it. And everyone is telling me, no, sweetie, you look great now. If you don't, and I believe what they've been saying is, if you don't recognize it, most of the rappers and everything, they have larger girlfriends. And I'm like, oh, does this mean that it's acceptable to be over a size 6 now? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. So I kind of touch on that in the very first essay. But like, yeah, especially like in across Black communities, including in the US, it's like larger bodies are accepted, but only if they come in a certain form, or especially if they come in a certain form. So you have to be like the hourglass. Mostly it's like the big hips, the big butts, the big thighs that are acceptable. Sometimes you could be an hourglass, and that could mean like bigger breasts as well. But it's so specific, because it's like this, like the acceptable type of fat. Or you can even be bigger than like a size 14, but as long as your body is like in that hourglass shape, then you'll still be praised. But it's still very much about like those false beauty standards and ideals, so it's like a limited amount of acceptance, right? Because it's the concept is still kind of the same. But in terms of health, there are studies that show that Black women are actually healthier at larger weights. And especially like if you're taller, you're going to be heavier, and you might not even be overweight, but our BMI, the body mass index system, it's actually based on a white man. And so it just doesn't take into account different body types and cultures and things like that. So this is just and that's true from my experience as well.
Oh, the BMI. Oh, the interesting things with the BMI. That did change, right? Like, because it used to be a little bit more liberal. At least I thought it did. Anyway, or maybe it's because I was skinny that I thought the BMI was a little bit more liberal. Oh well. Anyway, so I loved your thoughts on that, by the way. Yeah, and you are right. It's very, very strict. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm sitting here right now with an aching belly trying to fit right in it. Just got finished exercising. Woo. I often wonder, I was like, if men had to do this much work to stay attractive, and we didn't see them on the on like the movies all the time, and they're like balding and fat, and they have this gorgeous woman next to them. I wonder if they had to do that much work to get in a bikini, if they would even be a BMI. Often wondered. Did you want to say anything about that? I mean, I know it's just a sentence, but you might want to throw your hat in the ring instead of me just ranting.
Yeah. I was just on a date yesterday, and he was telling me about his coworker and his relationship with his girlfriend. And not to get too into the gory details, but they were having some issues in the bedroom. And so uh, his coworker's girlfriend was very hurt by that. And even though he kept explaining that it had nothing to do with her, he was just tired or, stressed out from work or something like that. She couldn't accept that. Like she still felt like it was on her. And so it still, upset her whenever it happened. And I could relate. I was like, that's, I've been in that situation before. And this guy I was on a date with was really emotionally intelligent, and he was like, yeah, my coworker was like, she's she's crazy emotional or something, but he was like, no, like you don't understand the whole picture, like our society places an insane amount of pressure on women to fit like these insane beauty ideals. And even though some women know it's bullshit, and are always calling it out, even still, it's crazy how much those beauty standards are impacting all of us. Even just like consuming them, even if you do have media literacy, it's already affecting your mind and your viewpoint, even if you don't want it to. So she's not being irrational. It really is. It's easy for us to jump to, oh well, this is my fault because I'm not pretty enough, because that's the underlying message our society is sending women all the time, right? And you'll notice that they're not doing the same to men, right? Men are able to be valued for things other than their looks, but women are not.
This is one host who does not agree with that. I just want to say that. I work very hard to keep my looks intact. It's very expensive. And if you're a man and you're like, but I'm funny, sweetie, I can find funny and it can be fine. So move on. I have to be fine and funny. So do you. So do you. Okay. Back to being reasonable again. if if you were able to know, if your book was able to impact and change society, what kind of society would you like to see from this?
And we've talked about that, and it's like, there's this knowledge that people, organizers like myself, eventually obtain. It's like, um, it can be boiled down to social hierarchy forever reproduces itself, right? So in like whenever you're organizing around a social issue, what will happen is the same exact issues that you're trying to prevent end up reproducing themselves within that very organizing space, right? Within that very community that's trying to get rid of it. So like, for instance, for body positivity, that's literally what happened. Everybody came in, or maybe not everybody came in on the same page, but it started out very radically. It had a lot of potential, and eventually ended up still reproducing the same kind of dynamic. And I think it's because, it's the way we're raised and how we're like indoctrinated, and it's so ingrained, but also, there were outside forces that were playing that a role in that as well. So yeah, it's like, in conclusion, I don't know if we'll ever be able to overcome beauty standards. Like, I don't know if as a species we'll ever be able to value people outside of like genuinely value people outside of just how they look, like even if we do value someone for something else, how they look plays a role in that valuation, right? But again,
But
knowing that.
we know for me it does, because I just announced it. It
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. I remember. But yeah, that's what. So yeah, again, like what I hope people get out of this book is just more critical thinking and media literacy, and the idea that things like beauty and what's viewed as healthy, even, in a society, are not set in stone. Even with Europeans, the idea of beauty has evolved just with Europeans over time, and even the idea of health. And like, I think a lot of people think that what we have now is like, or that skinny is like set in stone, it's permanent, it's forever. But it's really just white supremacy, right? If you get to the bottom of what's going on there. So I just need people to know that these ideas were given to you, and they're not fact. They are permeable, they change over time, and we even have evidence of that over history.
Yes. I find it rude that these standards are here. But I'm not going to talk about why I find it rude. Because I just thought about it. I just did a rant about, beauty. So I think why I find it rude should not be here. Oh, I lied. I'm going to talk about it. I think it's really rude because like you look at it, you look at the art from further back, the classical art that we value today. And you see larger ladies with bellies because that was considered beautiful because they had food and were able to afford it. And guess who can afford the really healthy food now? It's not
Yeah.
fair. Just because you don't have money doesn't mean you can't be beautiful. That's all I'm saying. I feel like we should definitely change this for everyone. But anyway, I did want to ask you, I did want to have a small discussion real quick on the changes that we have seen in the fashion industry on this, and the fact that we do see more full figured, and I don't mean full figured being size 10. I remember when I was around and I was a cute model when I was cute. Size 4 was pushing it. So now, yeah, size 4 is pushing it. Size 6 is obese. So now, and size 10 was plus. Now we see 14 and 16 and the occasional 20 or 22. How do you feel about this being accepted more into mainstream commercials and television? What work do you think we have to do here?
Yeah, just touching on what you said. Yeah, that's because like you'll notice throughout my book, the theme is like placing this huge importance on being a size 2. Like you'll hear that quoted, like I'll quote that specific size a couple of times as like the ideal, because the idea was like, it's not even enough to be skinny. The way fat phobia is operating, it's like if you're not a size 2 as a woman, you will feel the wrath of fat phobia in some form or another. So you can even be considered thin technically, and not be a size 2, and you'll be let know somehow that you're like a rung below on the social ladder. So yeah, that was, I believe it. I believe it. I really do. But yeah, I think that it's still, the appearance of now, like the Ashley Grahams who are like a size 14 or like a size 16. And like model Tess Holiday, who I believe is like a size 22 or 24 or 26. Um, yeah, I think it's obviously, it is progress, right? It's definitely progress, even though they are white women, even though they don't represent the whole plus size community, it is becoming more inclusive. It's an opportunity for more people to see themselves, for people's ideas of beauty and health to expand, and therefore for just everyday people to be treated better. I think there's a lot of like potential there, even if it's not covering everything. However, and it's also good because it lays the groundwork for people like us to have discussions about how it's still it's only happening because to some degree it still is a reproduction of white supremacy. It still does hold to white supremacist ideals in some fashion or form, and what we need to do, what needs to happen moving forward to move away from that, and also to provide like like good quality fashionable clothing, good quality or high quality healthcare, and access to jobs, for people that aren't just like, a 14 or a 22, but like for someone like Roxanne Gay, who's a size 42, like being all inclusive um in that sense. So not just only this small swath of people, but for the majority of people in the US, because the average size is increasing, and there are more fat people every day.
I always find that funny. Like I look around, so I'm not saying that everyone's fat. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I look around often and I'm like, yeah, the majority of people are not gonna fit that size. So why is it in the magazine? Are you making people not want to buy your clothes? Like, if you see it and you'll be like, oh, I'll never fit that, then I mean, in any other place, any other spot, we would look at a dish, a food dish, and they'd be like, that's appetizing. Something to clean your clothes. It'll clean it better. But you're going to go with fashion and beauty standards. You're going to be like, you know what? Here's a standard no one's really going to fit that is going to watch this. Out of the millions and billions of people on earth that are going to watch this, no one's going to fit it. Here you go. That's opposite. The demand is not there. Supply something. Then the demand. That doesn't, I never understand that. Never understand that. And I went on a third rant. Oh my God. I'm so sorry about that. Okay. To make sure that I am a good host and pay attention to, the actual person being interviewed instead of going on rants with my ideas, I'm going to now just ask the last 3 questions. I'm going to ask about your writing process. So when you were writing this was your debut novel, correct? Your debut book? What was it like being a first-time author?
So I reached out to a lot of, like, I applied to a lot of a lot of agents. I queried a lot of I think that's their name, like, yeah, literary agents, in order to get my book published by a big name book publisher. I think I received like 26 rejections or something like that, and then I found out, I didn't know that self-publishing was an option, and I found that out, and I was like, oh, this is perfect, right? Because then I don't have to deal with any gatekeepers. I can just fashion this however I want to, and I can say what needs to be said without having like that gatekeeping. Because what I've heard about the publishing industry, which is really like every industry, right, is that it's gate kept in the name of white supremacy. So whatever you want to say, or whoever says it, it's like the huge bias towards white authors, and just white knowledge and production and work and ideas in general. So I might not have even been able to publish the book that I did, but I loved the process of self-publishing. I'm really proud of the product. I think it's maybe not traditional, but I think that's a good thing, right? Because we're seeing different modes of writing coming out. Even if I didn't reach as many eyes as I could have under a big name publisher, but it was a positive experience. I'm proud of it.
Now, where can we find that book and find out more information about you? You can put your social, you can talk about your social media handles here now if you want to.
Yes, definitely. So I have a Twitter account. It's at plus size book. So to spell it, PLUSSIZEBOOK, and it's like the profile picture is like the cover of my book, and the cover photo is like a picture of the ocean, and I just tweet things that are related to the book, like for instance, I retweet this radical account that's like deprogramming everyone by writing like positive things about fat, like I value fat, or fat is beautiful, or fat is like it's normal to be fat, or um, it's normal for kids to be fat, stuff like that. So I I follow that account. I retweet that a lot. I recently retweeted a picture of Roxanne Gay and her wife, which I love. I love their relationship, and I love following their marriage. It's great. Yeah. And then also, I also have a website, plussizebook.com, where you can find the latest stuff about the book.
Thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. I apologize again. I didn't know that I felt this way about, the fat and skinny war. Hmm. But I'm gonna look forward to like picking up a second copy of your book and support. Um, you can find out everything about your ladies at www.andithoughladies.com. And while you're there, if you go down to the middle of the page, you can see the charities that we support. We would love it if you could give them a little help right now. We thank you in advance for that. And remember that wisdom is all around you if you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys. From Jade and Winona. I forgot that there is a missing Jade. Yeah, from the missing Jade and Winona. Oh, yeah. Thanks for listening.